Thanks for joining me for this edition of the Author's Corner, brought to you by KNEO 91.7 FM, The Word. I'm Roberta Foster, and today I welcome Addison Crissone back to Author's Corner. She is the author of the book After the Badge, and she'll tell you more about how to find the book at the end of the program. We actually first talked with Addison when she released her first book that's called The Yellow Badge. So Addison, welcome back to Author's Corner.
Thank you for having me. It's a true honor.
Well, I know that this book is standalone, so if anybody picked it up, they could read it without having to read The Yellow Badge. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the first book and how that segues into your current book, After the Badge?
Yeah, so After the Badge can technically be labeled as a standalone novel, but I strongly advise all readers to go ahead and read The Yellow Badge beforehand. The Yellow Badge follows Ruth DeVos, a young Jewish woman living in Antwerp, Belgium during World War II and the Holocaust. And it opens up with her parents being arrested and her brother joining the Dutch resistance, and she goes into hiding with a Dutch family who hides her. So it just really closes in 1943, and After the Badge picks up in 1944 with the liberation of Antwerp and Brussels. So it really kind of goes together. Mm-hmm. Well, but like I said, you can read it standalone if you want. But yeah, the Yellow Badge really just leads the way into After the Badge, and After the Badge answers any questions that the reader will have at the end of the Yellow Badge.
Excellent. So what is it about the World War II and Holocaust era that drew your attention that you wanted to write these novels for that time frame?
Yeah, so it all started with a competition, an essay competition that I was signed up to do for school. And the essay was supposed to be on either Operation Moscow during World War II in Russia, and then the German occupation of Belgium. So I obviously took the German occupation of Belgium. And it just really kind of snowballed from an essay to a short story to a full-length novel, and then on to a sequel that I had never planned before. It was never in my plan to write a sequel, but it just happened, because of demand. My family would not let me rest until I had a sequel to it. It was just not possible.
So what did you find the hardest about the research and writing the story?
So the research was the fun part. I love any type of research as long as, I'm passionate about it. The hard part was putting, of course, pen to paper, because it is such a depressing era in history. It was so difficult to get into the characters day in and day out because of, the concentration camps, the interrogation, all the heavy parts that we tend to avoid when we listen to history or when we are taught history in school. But it really paid off in the end, having to just keep putting myself into that depressing, I don't want to say depressing mindset, but depressing era, and having to kind of live through that through my characters. And I truly think it paid off, in the end, to have not only one full-length novel, but two come out of it.
So I've never asked anybody this question before, but as you were putting your novel together, did you write from chapter 1 to the end of the book chronologically, or did you actually write, let's say, a chapter here and then another chapter that was like a ways away and another chapter there, and then go back and fill them in?
So yeah, with the Yellow Badge, I wrote, After Badge also, I wrote the whole thing chronological. So the prologue opens up at the beginning of part 2, but I wrote that first, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So then when it came time for me to write part 2, I just modeled it after the prologue. But so literally everything in the book was written chronologically as you read it. Okay. Well, today I am talking with Addison Crissone regarding her book, After the Badge, and you're listening to Author's Corner. I'm Roberta Foster. The Yellow Badge had a lot of the hardships of the Holocaust written about in there. So did you find writing After the Badge easier? Were there still some challenging parts of writing this book? Yeah, so After the Badge, the biggest challenge for After the Badge was getting into it. it was really easy because I still had my characters, but I really and truly didn't know plot lines because, like I said, it was never in my plan to write a sequel. So that was the hardest part, is trying to figure out where to take my characters from where we leave off in the Yellow Badge and where to take them in After the Badge. But once I got started, it just kind of took off, which was wonderful because it took so long, to get started. But it was, I feel like, a little bit easier because I already had the foundations laid. I already knew the characters, backward and forward. And also just getting to kind of go from liberation to the literal end of the war and kind of get to see a little glimpse of their life afterward was a lot lighter and easier. It was really fun to get to see those when compared to the darker scenes that we might have in the Yellow Badge.
Yeah, yeah. And so what was your favorite scene in writing After the Badge?
So, yeah, my favorite scene for After the Badge would have to be in the beginning of chapter 33. And it is where we see Andrew's final scene with Ruth. And Andrew is Ruth's brother, of course. The scene unfolds with both of them on the beach like they used to when they were children. And Andrew is talking to Ruth. And, of course, this is all just a dream, but she notices that his wounds that he received from the Germans are healed. There are no scars left from where the bullet hit him. But she also notices that they're the same. He's just the same as she knew him. And she asks him, why you? Because she can't grapple with the grief of losing this. So she says, why you? And Andrew only grins at her. And he says, why not me? And these questions are very, very simple but profound. And they mean a lot to me because they're the same words that my grandfather told my grandmother after his cancer diagnosis. And she asked him, why you? Like, why does it have to be you to be taken away from me? And he said, why not me? My Lord suffered, died for me.
Yeah.
And in the book, in the scene, Andrew's telling her that he's all right. That he's in heaven waiting for her, and that it is well with his soul, and that he's asking her to finally, lay him down, leave him there, accept this grief.
Okay.
We're going to meet again. So, and that scene is the one scene that, literally broke me. Like, I had to quit for the day after I wrote that. I was, boo-hooing, So that was just one of the heavier scenes, but it really carries such weight that I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that because we've all experienced grief.
Yeah, yeah. So we know the book is written in the World War II era, but what's the book about? What is the theme of After the Badge?
Yeah, so I would think that the main theme for After the Badge would have to be forgiveness, if I were going to put it in a one-word category. It really focuses on the trials and tribulations that we Christians face, or anyone faces in life, and how we can move on past those and kind of come to acceptance and forgive anyone who's wronged us, or forgive the situation that we feel hard toward, And so throughout the whole book, we see Ruth grappling with grief of losing her brother, as well as her anger and frustration toward the German regime and Hugo for betraying her Stillwater's family, Yeah. So throughout the whole book, we're seeing her struggle with that, struggling with it in dreams, and just continuously it never leaves her. And then we finally boil down to a point where she has to accept it. She has to accept that Andrew's gone, and she has to accept what happened with Hugo, and she has to accept what the war did in general to her and her family. And it's moving past that and learning, God forgave us. Jesus told us to forgive 70 times 7, We need to just lay it down and come to that forgiveness because that's the only way we're going to find true freedom.
Well, you are a young author. I don't know exactly your age, but a very young author. And so how do you have even life's experiences to write about such detail, such emotionalism, we'll say, in your book?
Yeah, so I'm 18, for anyone wondering. I don't know, honestly. I mean, I feel like God just gives me whatever message he would have me write. And along with it comes the personal struggles and tribulations that we all face that we might not always, broadcast toward others. But for After the Badge, the subject of grief really came for me because I had lost my grandfather. I think it was right as I was starting After the Badge, right around the same time in 2024. We lost him to lung cancer.
Okay.
And it happened so quickly. It was within 2 months, and I wasn't expecting it. No, none of us was. So I feel like that was a real instrument for understanding Ruth's grief throughout After the Badge. So I feel like, too, in order to write about something, God has to teach it to me first.
Sure.
And that's with any writer. God has to reveal it to you, has to teach you. So half the time, before I even begin to write a book, I'm already being taught the lesson that's going to be in the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and that's basically the heart of my question, is the experiences that you've had at such a young age to be able to write such books. What kind of advice would you give to the characters of your stories in how to live out their life, I guess?
Yeah, I love that question. I guess, have to say, don't give up. Keep fighting.
Okay.
Because, we as human beings, we don't know the end from the beginning. We can't see from our current viewpoint. We can't see where it's all leading, no matter what our situation might be, through pain, through sorrow, you name it. We are often blinded by that, and we can't see where God's taking us from point A to point B. And I would just say, don't give up and keep fighting, because you got to trust God. Whatever befalls us, His plan is greater. And as an author, many, think that I have the power to do whatever I want with my characters in the book. Unfortunately, that's not always true, because I do write by faith. Whatever I feel God leading me to write, that's what I do. So I'm not fully in control of my writer or of my character's outcome. And so most of the time when I'm writing, I know just as much as you readers do. So the characters don't know the end from the beginning. I don't know the end from the beginning. So in life, we just have to walk by faith. Yeah. And so I have to write by faith also.
Well, I'm not a writer, and it's probably one of the hardest things for me to have to do. So I don't quite understand that whole business of not knowing the end when you start writing. Yeah. But at the same time, I hear just about every author tell me that, so I have to believe it. Okay, but the book, After the Badge, is not the end of the story. You've told me that there's a third book already.
Yes. So book 3, it is a standalone. It's different than After the Badge and Yellow Badge. This third book is Civil War. So we're kind of switching timelines up. But yes, book 3 is coming out July 18th of this year, and I couldn't be more excited.
Okay. Well, I guess I misunderstood the context there. So once again, this is a totally different era, a different time period, so give us just a little insight into what the storyline is, other than that it's written in the Civil War era.
Yeah, so the title is Birdie's Song, and it follows the story of Josephine Mackenzie. We open up in 1864, and we kind of flash back to her father and 2 oldest brothers join the Confederate Army, and we see her kind of grapple with them leaving and her slowly watching as each brother leaves to join the Confederate Army, and she's left at home to tend to what's left of her family. And that's one thing that Josephine struggles with throughout the whole book, is holding her family together, because she thinks that everybody's leaving. So at the heart of this book, it's truly just a book of family and faith, of love and loss, as well as the redemption that only God can give us.
Amen.
This book is totally different than the other 2 books. So I'm really excited to see how people react. So, yeah, Birdie's Song is coming out July 18th of 2026.
Okay. All right, so the book we're talking about today is called After the Badge. It's written by Addison Crissone. And so, Addison, tell our listeners, if you have a website or if people want to connect with you, how they find the book.
Yeah, so my website is AddisonCrissonePubsite.pro.com. And you can find all my information there. And the books are sold on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Books of a Million, anywhere that books are sold traditionally online.
Okay. All righty. So one more time, the book is After the Badge by Addison Crissone. And it's been a pleasure chatting with her today. And thank you so much for sending us a copy of the book.
Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, if you'd like to hear this interview again or share it with someone else, you can find it on your favorite podcast platform or through kneo.org. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Roberta Foster on the Author's Corner. Join me again next time.